Going to be telling the story of how I was invited to an Elfian Ascension celebration. Yeah, you heard that right. An Elfian Ascension celebration. So I did a holistic fair September 7th. A week later, less than a week later, I was sitting outside doing my morning routine on my back deck and connecting to my messenger guides, connecting to my spirit guides, that connection practice that I did so much every morning in the summer. And since winter has started, it's been a struggle. But now that spring is on its way and it's almost here, it kind of is nice to reflect back on that moment and how I've started to do that connection practice again. So I was sitting, connecting with my guides, getting messages, it was a very exciting time for me. I would say September to, the first week of October was really peak for me. September was, it felt like my month. It felt very good, very high vibes, very, inspirational. It felt amazing. So I was invited by my Elfian Traveler guide, my Ascension guide that we all have. We all have Ascension guides. I was invited by mine to attend an Ascension celebration. So apparently in the Elfian realm, and don't worry, I got a book coming out all about the ascension process of the Elfian realm and how it relates to us and all of that. And also the elf who ascended is going to get kind of like a chance to speak in the book as well. So that is on its way. It is almost done. It is almost complete, and I'm very excited about that, which is kind of why I'm sitting down standing up and talking about this right now. Trying to get different settings for the videos, something a little different, because this kind of water base here reminds me of the golden water path, but it's not golden. And I'll get there in a second. I'm getting ahead of myself, yeah? Okay. So I was invited, and it was sunrise, and it was beautiful, and the birds were flying, and it was the perfect moment. And a guardian of the veil, who is an elf, because guardians of the veils are elves, she was like, your ascension guide is coming. And I looked at, I'm clairaudience, so I can hear better than I can see beyond the veil. But I was able to see this like energy moving towards me. And, first I'm like, okay, I'm surrounded by divine light and love. Nothing and no one can access me nor my energy without my permission. I'm safe and protected. Only light and love. Only light and love. Welcome here. God protects, God watches over. Gaia anchors, Gaia grounds. The archangels of the four corners are with me. Metatron from above. The whole thing. Like I redid that whole protection. I'm like, there's this energy moving towards me, and it feels very different. It turns out it was just what my ascension guide looks like when he's excited, which I guess I just don't see much of that. And he was excited and he was urgent. And it was a different energy. So I obviously put the protection in. It didn't feel like a bad one. It felt like a very positive one, but it was different than what I was familiar with. So I just stopped and did that protection. And then he was able to come through. And he came through. I'm like, oh, so that's who it is. Why are you so excited? Because I know it's not something that I did that made you so excited, because I've just kind of been sitting here. Like he's very comedic. All the elves are very comedic, but they're not like, they can be very calm. They're not always super the guides, at least the joy bringers, are super excited. And it didn't feel like a joy bringer. It felt like an elf that's typically more serious, that's like all excited. And he said, there's an elf ascending, and we want you to come to the Ascension celebration. The Flower of Inspiration wants you to come. So you need to go into a trance, you need to astral project tomorrow at like 5 o'clock. You need to do this. Like 5 o'clock a.m. or p.m. first. He's like, p.m. Like, okay, because a.m. I'm astral projected, but in the way of like doing guided astral projected, where I'm in a Reiki state, the healer of spirit puts me in a Reiki state, and I'm able to like focused astral project, so that way I can remember what's going on. And he's like, you need to learn, this experience is something that needs to be shared, and it's like once in a lifetime, like you've only done this in one other lifetime before, like, so apparently I've attended this celebration in a lifetime before, I just don't know which one it was. He wasn't very specific, but definitely not one recently. And so I was invited, and I went, and it was the most unique experience, I will say. So the next day after the invitation, I was like riding a little high, you know, like this is exciting. Like I'm invited to astral project and witness this thing that, you know, souls from our realm don't get to experience, because the way that we do ascension is very different. I was very excited. And you know, the week before I had the fair, I led the class about inner child healing. I found a 4-leaf clover, insert picture here. It was amazing. I was having, you know, I released a really heavy toxic connection and allowed in a positive one. So I was really, you know, really happy in these moments. So my joy was like peak high. And so I was so excited and I was feeling like a joy bringer. Went into the Reiki state, and the first thing, my guardian angel. And my guardian angels, they all have different energies, but there's one particular one who's very dominant green, teal, like wings teal, aura green, very dominant energy. Although a lot of people who can sense the guides around me will see that, like my Elfian traveler guide and also the head healer, they'll see them as like protective energies. They'll see their auras. They'll see the head Elfian healer and my Elfian traveler guide as like protectors of me as well, almost like guardian angels, but like those aren't guardian angels. Yeah, so those ones will typically come through and talk to me, mainly because they watched me a lot when I was a kid. So when I go into the trance, it really starts with my main guardian angel, and then my other guardian angels behind him. And then typically like some of the elves will step forward, or like my Akashic Records guide. But this time I didn't need my Akashic Records guide. I just needed my guardian angel to guide me through the astral projection process. So the back doors to the Elfian realm, the back doors when you're astral projecting, at least for me. So my guardian angel guided me up through to like kind of this like meeting area that they call like the pre-entering Earth area, where I was able to be safely guided and protected and anchored, like my body anchored with the light of Gaia, and then like protected, you know, with the light of God. You know, the light of God surrounds us, the love of God enfolds us, that energy. So I was able to do that, which was really exciting. And then when that whole protection anchoring thing was done, I bumped into an Elfian traveler. And this traveler elf who had been a guide and ascended to a new level, he came up to me and he's like, "You're going to the celebration. I can't go because the travelers, you know, a lot of them are sent to kind of substitute other elf jobs for the ones that do attend the celebration." So he gave me a hug and he was like, "Thank you for communicating my realm." And he was very nice energy, and he was off to go do his work. And I felt very loved in that moment. And I felt like I could be there on behalf of him to celebrate, because apparently the celebration, which I'd never heard of before, was such a big thing. But I think that's such an exciting thing about being the Elfian realm communicator and starting so young, is that there's still so many things about the realm that I'm still learning about, which is so exciting. So I went up through the sun. So I went up through my soul origins after that meeting to kind of get charged with the beings of the solar frequency. And then they sent me on my way to my star origins, which is like a nova-like planet. So it's like a star, it's like a planet, comes from a supernova. Very like different types of light beings from all different soul origins kind of choose to incarnate there when they're not in the physical. So it's a nova-like planet, and I say that because I know that the one mine is called Nova, but there's like other ones. So like a lot of the animals that incarnate, like the group soul sources that are near those planets, like the Novian, are like of service to people, of service to the collective. Also, there's like different names. That's a whole different thing. I'll probably explain more about that in a future video. So let me know if you want me to talk more about my star origins in a future video, because I know I'm not the only one who has that star origins, and I'm also not the only one who has the sun soul origins. So I can definitely talk more about that in more depth in the future. So I went there to the elder, or the guardian of Nova. Like we have the guardian of Earth God, guardians Gaia too. So the guardian of Nova, and she's a divine feminine energy, and she is very, very nice. She's very powerful energy. She is, and she was guiding me through the astral projection back doorway to the Elfian realm, because I guess just on my like star origins, there's like a way to get to the Elfian realm, the elf energetic meeting place. So she guided me there, and I kind of had to step through there alone. And obviously, whenever I go in these Reiki trances, they're giving me guidance, they're giving me things like that. But in this particular one, it's like preparing for the celebration. And then then I went into the realm. And when I stepped in, because I typically will go with my Elfian Traveler Guide and I'll like pop up in the middle and that's that. But the way I entered this time is, I guess, the way that you always enter if you're astral projecting and entering into the realm through that doorway. So this part's where it gets exciting. So next to me is this like silver valley, and in front of me is the golden water path. It kind of like looks like this, and there's like a huge mountain. You can see the source energy, and it's this light, and I got it illustrated, so I'm just gonna stop talking and have inserted images of what it looks like here so you can look at it and kind of see what I saw. But like, it's not entirely what I saw, it's kind of a summary of what I saw, because it's very hard to translate all of it into an image, because it's like some of it the human brain just can't comprehend it, because it's so like some of the colors, some of the frequencies. So beautiful, beautiful realm. And I was looking around looking for my guide, and then this little joy bringer. Oh, she's a very fun energy, divine feminine. She works in the UK. That's where she works. And she came up to me. And what's very funny is that I typically only meet elves who are in America for the most part. And talk to them and channel them. So meeting an elf that like works in another area of the earth that I haven't been to yet. So typically the ones that I'll meet are Midwest American, like those ones, because I haven't really traveled since clairaudience, but I'm doing that this year, and I'm going to meet elves from all over, well, from somewhat over. We're not traveling too far yet, but definitely starting that journey and process right now. So getting back on track, she came up to me, and I was like, I want to channel you one day, because like the accent and the way, like the type of, because elves have dry humor. That's just something that they have. But she's like the opposite of that, where her humor isn't dry at all. It's like right there in front of your face, which is not what you would expect, because, you know, English, like in England and Ireland, all of them, they're like more famously known for their dry humor. So the elves that I'm working with in America, they have more of a dry sense of humor, and it's not always in your face, or more sarcasm, but like, because all the elves have this comedic nature. Like, yes, there's the Joybringer domain, but part of something that inspires all of us is laughter. So that's something that they all try and do, and that's just in the essence of their very being. So she is straight to the point funny, and my soul was laughing, and then she kind of like got somber, and which was very strange for a Joybringer to get somber. And she said she works with the innocents, and she wanted to like communicate. She was like, this is a pretty big celebration, because it's gonna impact a lot. And I asked her about it. I'm like, so what exactly is going on here? She's like, your Elfian Traveler Guide didn't tell you? Like, he did, but I don't remember, really. Like, I was just more excited about this, like, new experience. So she told me that a Traveler Guide ascended because a soul had died in our realm. And that this celebration isn't just for an elf, it's for a human soul as well. And that human soul had done something that they're ready to ascend to Ascended Master. They completed their initial purpose, or they completed a purpose, and they're ready to ascend to a new level. And therefore their Elfian Traveler Guide, and it was their initial purpose that they completed, and they are getting a new one in the celebration. So their Elfian Traveler Guide is ready to select what they want to do. And typically the celebration happens when they choose to become an assistant to an elder. And that means that they choose to be kind of like an Ascended Master teacher for the Elfian realm. An elf decides to teach for another domain that they never worked with before. They could choose the Elfian Traveler Guide domain. So this Elfian Traveler Guide is ready to ascend and wants to be an Ascended Master, but it's kind of like a picking ceremony where he gets to celebrate with the elves before he starts this new journey in his life, which is really exciting. And I'm saying he, but because towards the end he stepped into a divine masculine light. But before this point, he didn't have an energy light. He was gender neutral. So before this point, he was gender neutral. So they were gender neutral, and they said that in their lifetimes working, they were in a divine feminine light, and they kind of, when they stepped into their new purpose, their energy changed because they needed to step into a different one of the sources, divine masculine or divine feminine. They needed a different one to complete their new purpose. But we'll get there. We're getting there. Okay, now I can hear the elves being like, get to the point. I'm like, this is a long story. So back to it. This elf is ascending because the soul that they guided completed their initial purpose and is ascending. So there's a whole part of the celebration where the elves celebrate the human soul that's ascending. So that means that someone had died, and it doesn't mean recently, because they said that it takes, like, for human time frame, it could have happened 5 years ago, or it could have happened 5 months ago. So it just kind of depends when we're looking at the human time frame, because time is a construct. So the way that time works beyond the veil is very different than how it works here on Earth. So gauging that is a little different. So then I found my Elfian traveler guide, who was having a ball without me, living his best life. And we started talking, and he started explaining more things to me about why I was there. So I was there because I had to create a contract, and I have channeled this elf, and there are videos that I have channeled the elf that has ascended, but because assistants to the elders typically never come in contact with humans after they ascend to that level. So they typically just work with the elves and never really leave the realm. And they wanted to do something different. The Elfian realm, now they have me as the communicator. They wanted to establish a contract with me and this assistant to the elder so that I can get a different lens into the Elfian realm and further understand how their relationship with humanity is and how they can help us ascend to different levels. So this contract needed to be established, and we needed to establish the contract right after this elf's ascension. Like, I needed to be there for the celebration to establish this contract. So the celebration began, and the source of the Elfian realm, he started with a little speech, and it's really like remembering it because it's been 4 or 5 months since this happened, so remembering it is kind of hard, but the specific details. But he introduced everybody. He introduced the domains, he introduced the elders, and then he called on me. He said I had to give a speech. So I went up to start this ascension, and I started crying on behalf of humanity because of the experimentation. Granted, my soul wasn't even on Atlantis for the experimentation, but I felt it as being like a representative of humanity. I felt it. I felt it in my soul. I felt it in every nature of my being. I felt it, and my soul started sobbing. And the unique thing about the soul sobbing is it's a very different emotion, because that emotion comes from a place of love, and that sadness that you feel, that's typically like in the human realm. A lot of the sadness we feel can come from, doesn't necessarily come from a place of love. But when you feel sadness on a soul level, the only place it can come from is a place of love. And my love for the realm, and how I felt like humanity had done something wrong during the time of Atlantis, which was forever ago. But I was apologizing. And then the elf that was ascending stepped up from the crowd and said, I have nothing to apologize for, because they don't feel anger in the way that we do. They don't feel the emotions like we do. They forgave as soon as it happened because they understand the struggle of what we experience in the physical. They know that, and he knew, because he had guided a human who had experienced it all. And the unique thing about the Elfian Traveler Guides and the Elfian Traveler Guide domain and the assistant to the elders is that they've worked one-on-one with humans. And they know how hard of a struggle it is. And they don't hate us for it. they still have so much love for us. So any mistakes that we made, even if we are in this lifetime contributing to the experimentation not ending, they don't feel anger towards us. They feel love and compassion and empathy. And that was a very powerful thing. So I said that. And then, connected with this elf. And they said, now it's time to, turn and celebrate the human. And the timing was just right, following the sun, the moon, and the stars, for this human soul that was ascending. And there was a huge celebration, singing, dancing, all of that. And then it went quiet. And you could see a human soul entering into a different light and entering into the embrace of other ascended masters. And it was completely silent. And they all, as a collective realm, gave thanks to that human soul for the work that they did. And then, after kind of taking a moment of silence for this human soul, the real bulk of the celebration began. And that's when we get to the golden water path. The golden water path is basically, you get a petal from the flower of inspiration. It has a little stem energy. And you take it through the golden water path, through this golden water, through the golden waterfall. And it's like lit with golden Christed light and the golden rainbow fire and all these higher light frequencies. You take a petal, you get a petal, and you're supposed to get a light orb from every single domain. From the elder of every single domain. So all 7 domains, you got to get a light orb. And you all do it alone. They all go in alone. So I was walking with my guide, and he's like, okay, you're on your own. You got to figure this out. And I went into the water and I connected with all of the elders. And I had conversations with them, and it was really helpful. And they offer so much guidance in that brief interaction. And it's a time for every elf to connect to every domain and feel that unity in their realm. And it's a very beautiful thing to see, because the bulk of their celebration is this unity. Because you would think with domains that there is division, but there isn't. There's so much unity, and we don't even have domains, but we have things that separate us in the physical world. And we have different soul origins and different star origins. And in the physical plane of existence, division is such a huge thing. And you would think hearing 7 domains, these elves might never interact with each other. But from channeling them and from that experience, what I learned is that they interact with each other so much. It doesn't matter what dimensional frequency that they radiate in, they are all friends. And that is something we can take, in our plane of existence, because there are so many of us at different dimensional realities. We're all living in different dimensional realities on the plane of Earth and all different ascension paths, but we can still be friends. We can still connect with one another. We can still help one another. And there are still things we can learn from one another. And they're so big about knowing when they don't know things and calling upon other domains and other elves. And I always wondered where that relationship comes from, because it does sound like a very isolated existence. The cosmic Elfian elementals, they stay in the cosmos, and the earth elementals, they stay on the earth. Well, they don't, because they can travel between the realms of existence, and they have this celebration that's been going on for a really long time that has bonded them as souls. And souls don't die, really. They just evolve and grow into something new, and they've had this bonding them and connecting them since the birth of their existence. And you have to think we have to have something like that. And I kept wondering all of these things when I was in the celebration. And the thing about being in the non-physical plane of existence is that your thoughts are projected. And so all the elves around me can see everything I'm thinking, and they see that. And they say that we are more united than we think. But that's not the point of this video. Talking about how we're more united than we think, because we are. We do have a lot of things that unite us. And we do have a collective purpose. And I'll link my like purpose versus mission video here because I do touch on that in that video. So back to it. The golden water path ended. And now we're following the petals of the flower of inspiration into the atmosphere of the flower of inspiration. So this eternal plantation has an energetic atmosphere with the light of the flower of inspiration. And we're going to enter the atmosphere for this elf choosing what they're going to be an assistant for, which domain. I had a meltdown. So during this time of this golden water path, I got attacked energetically. And it got to the point where the chief warrior elder, the chief Elfian warrior, had to step into my body and check my surroundings to make sure that everything was okay. And because he's from the warrior frequency and I'm from the warrior frequency, he was able to do it quickly and come back. Basically, per our soul contract, because I have a very unique soul contract with each elder and when I'm channeling them and different things like that. So per my contract with him, if I am astral projected in the Elfian realm and I am getting psychically attacked, he has permission to come into my body and check to see if everything's okay and kind of send the warrior light to remove the negativity and then come back and then help me rebalance when I come back into the physical form. So that's part of the soul contract that's been established from lifetimes ago. So he did that. Everything was okay. But I started freaking out. And my soul started feeling freaked because I didn't know what was going on. And I couldn't explain to them what was going on. But I didn't need to because they kind of understood. And he told me that, you know, it doesn't matter if you get attacked by negativity. You know, you just have to remember the power of your soul and who you are. And he had me affirm like 50 times my soul name. He had me affirm like 50 times what my soul is. And by doing that, I felt more empowered in who I am as a communicator. And the beautiful thing about this is that the elf who was ascending saw this interaction. And later on, when we entered the atmosphere of the flower of inspiration and he was choosing what domain to be an assistant to, he said that I inspired him. And when he said that, because it's inspiration is like a spark, right? Because there was no way I could have created a contract with this elf soul if we weren't inspiring each other and there wasn't that inspired spark to connect our souls. And so he said the right words to call my soul forward for us to establish this contract. And this contract is so I can channel him. And he can teach me what I need to know about the ascension process of the elves, what I need to know about assistance to the elders, and we can work together. And we have, thus the book in the works. So we have been working together. He chose the warrior domain. And I didn't know. So, you know, it's kind of like this blanket because he was this kind of gray energy. He was a clean slate. You know, he was an elf, but he was a clean slate. You know, no divine masculine, divine feminine, you know, divine energy, gender neutral. And you couldn't really see what he was going to choose until he did. And when he chose, his energy shifted. And the energy of what he was wearing changed, and you could finally see him as a divine masculine light. And he stepped into who he was in this new phase of his existence. You think that's the end of the celebration, but it's not. Then all the domains go back to do their work, and it's just the elders and this new assistant to the elder. And they all spend this time bonding with this new assistant to the elder and sharing stories and also talking about the human soul who ascended and connecting. And then the assistant to the elder goes with the elder that he's going to be the new assistant for and goes and bonds with that domain and works with that domain. And then it leaves the 6 elders remaining. And the Elfian source, you know, dipped out at some point. It's there for the celebration, but it's also kind of watching all its elves, you know? Kind of like how our source will pop in for things, but also still watching everyone. In a protective, making sure you're on the right path, helping you without intervening with free will sort of thing. So that happened. And I'm left with these elders, the 6 elders, and they all have different things that they do when they're done with the celebration. Oh my gosh, this little thing that's flying is a heart. That's so pretty. Thank you. Okay. Where did it come from? Probably beyond the veil. Okay. I learned to stop asking questions. It also probably came from my jacket. Anyway. The No Man Joybringer Elder has a very unique celebration that he does at the end of the celebration. All the other elders have other things that they do, but it's typically just more purpose related. He told me, the No Man Joybringer Elder, I trust my elves to do what they do. And they are very good at what they do, these Joybringers, when you allow them in. Like, there's one in particular who I allow her in sometimes, when she's kind of like Joybringer assigned to one of my family members. So I call on her a lot, and she's very good at what she does. Very good. These Joybringers, they've been like working and watching humanity. And even though they are the group of elves that were miscommunicated the most, they somehow are like the best at what they do and are still able to help humanity in such a unique way. So the No Man Joybringer Elder took me to the depths of the oceans. So the depths of the aquatic realm. And we're astral projecting, and I'm seeing like jellyfish energy, and it was very special. And he started talking about the Atlantean Circle. And I want to do a whole deep thing dedicated to the Atlantean Circle because it's such a massive, important thing for their realm and our realm. So that's definitely, and it's mentioned in the book, they talk about it. It's a very, very special thing. So the Atlantean Circle, it's big. What it was, in summary, is they would use crystalline energy to communicate. And they had these orbs. Every single soul and every representative from every realm during the time of Atlantis, these things keep falling, during the time of Atlantis had a circle sphere that was a crystalline energy that was connected to them and housed a lot of their memories. So there was one that the No Man Joybringer Elder picked up from the ground and said, this belongs to the cosmic Elfian elemental elder. And every Ascension celebration, I come here and I pick it up and I watch a very specific story. The story of the ascension of the cosmic Elfian elemental elder. I asked him why. Why do you watch the story of another elder? Don't you want to celebrate your own? And he said, oh yes, I celebrate my own. But this one holds a lot of inspiration power. It's the most inspiring ascension of an elder out of all of the elders. So he showed me the memory, and I wish I could pull it out of my memory and play it for you if that was a way to do it, because this crystalline energy that showed me what the cosmic Elfian elemental elder experienced during his ascension was one of the most inspiring things. His soul group, the Cosmic Guardians, were a group of Elfian elementals that could work with all the elements, and they worked as kind of a group of guardians over the elementals of the cosmos that were elves. But not just that, they also worked with other realms. So it was a small group of elves, but it was still small in comparison to other groups, but still a large number of souls. They told him to stay behind. During the experimentation and fall of Atlantis, the rest of the Elfian Cosmic Guardians wanted to go and save the elves. So they all committed a soul sacrifice, and he stayed behind. He received the message from the source that some of them were lost completely, that the soul sacrifice damaged their souls, and their souls were now kind of corrupt in darkness, and they had to leave our system. that some had to leave our system and work with other systems for other reasons. They all had to leave. And he was the only one left. And, the same thing happened with the Earth Elemental Elder and the assistants to Gaia. A very similar thing happened with her, but the difference is, for her, she didn't stay behind. She was on the earth with them. So when that happened with them, and they had to all do their different things, and she was the last, assistant to Gaia from the Alphean realm, her experience was a little different. It was a little easier to experience. But the Cosmic Alphean Elemental Elder, it was harder. And I saw, he, in my opinion, is one of the wisest, strongest, and he feels like the oldest Alphean Elder. He seems like he has always felt on purpose. I never once thought, out of all of them, that he would be the one to almost reject ascending to a new level. But he did. He said that his entire group sacrificed their souls and they're gone. And he stayed behind, and he was feeling the closest thing to human emotions a non-human soul could feel. And I was watching that. And the source of the Alphean realm told him that sometimes the bravest thing to do is not run headfirst into a battle, but to stay behind to help rebuild what is left when the fight is done. Sometimes the bravest thing to do is to stay. You're not a weak soul for staying, and they're not weak souls for leaving. You are needed here, just like they were needed there. They saved so many elves. And not just that, unicorns, dragons, fays, humans, they saved so many souls. They did what they were meant to do. And you still have yet to do what you are meant to do. I heard the Alphean source say that to this elder, and I watched the elder change completely and stepped into his power and took on the responsibility of rebuilding a domain and helping rebuild a realm. And then I understood why the No Man Joybringer elder watches this. And obviously there are things my memory doesn't fully remember from watching the memory, but I understand now why he watches that. Because he was inspired by this other elder, and he wants to share that story with every elf who's questioning their next level in life. He wants to share that with any soul who's questioning going into a different level in their life, who's ascending and taking on a different journey. And I asked him, do you show this to the new assistants to the elders? And he said, yeah, there's a bonding time where all the new assistants to the elders go and work with the other elders, and he does take them there. He does. And he shows it to them. He said in this particular case, you being able to see it and understand it helps this new one, the new assistant to the elder, a lot. Because now I've established this contract with this elf to do work, to help. And, anytime I feel doubt, I think back on that, because doubt is very human. And if a non-human soul can experience it for a split second and still come out being one of the most powerful souls in their realm when it comes to energetic dimensional power and the ability to change things, then that little moment of it that we experience as humans shouldn't define us at all. And it's not wrong to feel doubt. But remembering who you are, that is powerful. So after that, I came back to Earth, and it was a whole processing. But I wanted to share that story because it was very powerful for me. And it was an experience that changed, the next few weeks of my life after that point and leading up to this point. Because I really felt like I did commit a soul sacrifice at one point. I really felt like I was experiencing another dark night of the soul. That the negative polarity was fighting me so hard to stop me. I don't know. But I know that I ascended to a new level with this elf that ascended and during that celebration. And yeah, when it felt like the negative polarity was attacking me, I forgot who I was. But sitting down and now, working on the book again and connecting with the elves again and just doing my light work again, more so. I'd been very distracted with other things. So really kind of refocusing has reminded me that, a lot of the dark moments or the hard moments are so worth it in the end. So with that, and that ends Inspired Awakening, episode 2. And I'll see you in the next episode. And when the book is out, follow the socials. I'm going to put all the links in the description because when it's out, it's going to be an ebook on Amazon, and it'll be very affordable because it is definitely a necessity to be out there for the collective all. So thank you all for listening and joining me on this journey, sending you love, light, and inspiration. Stay inspired, and for the betterment of your ascension, I hope you find your inspired spark.